Hello all, this is Cinematic Breakdown and I'll be your omnipotent voice for the evening. Today I want to talk about a particular part of writing, specifically writing a certain kind of character. Now, you can write a character that's braver than you. You can write a character that's funnier than you. You can write a character that's sexier than you, that's stronger than you, that's more popular, tougher, wittier, cooler, smoother, more adventurous, more determined, more honest, more secure, more sincere, or just plain more confident. But under no circumstances can you possibly write a character that is smarter than you. It just can't be done. Many have tried, all have failed. Some people have tried to circumvent this fact in one of two ways. They either pull out a thesaurus and just give the character the biggest vocabulary they can, or they just tell the audience how smart the character is. The first one of these ends up with the same character you had before, but with fancier words, which doesn't actually make them smarter, it just makes them sound more arrogant. Less like someone who has intelligence and more like someone who's so insecure about their lack of intelligence that they need to overcompensate and show off as much as possible. It's sort of like trying to make a weak character strong by giving them a gun. They might be able to kill you now, but that has nothing to do with how strong they are. It's unrelated. The second option is much more common. This is where you just show someone having a 4.0 in college. Someone might walk up to the character and say, "Hey, I heard you got 1600 on your SATs, that's awesome." You might see them carrying a folder full of tests they've taken all marked with big red A's. Maybe they're just surrounded by high-tech gadgets and they listen to classical music. They play chess, solve Rubik's Cubes in seconds, they look smart, dress smart, have smart hobbies. Other characters say things like, "They're a genius." However, despite all these seemingly smart things that have been stapled onto them, the actual character in and of itself is not smart. A smart person isn't smart because they're associated with smart things. In fact, you can do none of these things and still be fucking brilliant. A smart character is one who actually makes smart decisions. They're put in a situation and actually think their way out of it. And one annoyingly common thing I've noticed happen a lot is when they want a character to appear smart, so they take something that has absolutely nothing to do with intelligence and then just have the smart one show up and do it easily. And the takeaway is, look how easily they did that thing. Therefore, they must be smart. One more way writers artificially try to make someone smart is to have them just know things that they should have had to have figured out. You see this a lot in detective shows. One example of a character actually figuring something out can be found in the series Death Note, which I don't want to praise too much as they fall into many of the habits and make use of many of the things I already mentioned previously. However, in the beginning of the story, they actually do a very good job of creating a smart character. Two, in fact. Now, this may involve a spoiler or two, but I'll try to keep it to a minimum. For those who don't know, the premise of this show is that there's this guy with a notebook, and any name he writes into it, that person dies. The real story is a game of cat and mouse played between the guy and a detective trying to catch him. Both of these characters are geniuses of unprecedented proportions. And at least in the beginning, it's not artificial. They're actually smart. They figure out problems, they plan schemes, they make deductions, they read situations, and they act on their ideas. There are many examples I can use of this, but to try to keep spoilers out of it, I use one that doesn't really matter much. And that is the main character's door. One time he leaves the house and comes back to discover that someone has been in his room. The way he learns this was twofold. He had a small slip of paper tucked in his door frame, as well as a particular way he leaves the doorknob. The doorknob lets him know that someone entered, while the fact that the paper was actually put back into place tells him that whoever entered noticed this and wanted to hide the fact that they were there, implying it was not his sister or his mother or his father or any regular person just walking into that room just to search for whatever and leaving. It was someone there with nefarious means intending to hide the fact that they were there. Now, this may not be rocket science, but it's important. The simple act of going somewhere and realizing things aren't right is commonly played out on TV, often like this.
Why did you stop?
He knows because he's smart. End of sentence. It's easy to tell the audience your character is smart. It's easy to Google a fact and then copy and paste that fact into your character's dialogue. But to have your character actually be smart, well, for that, you have to be smart. The reason for this is that unlike Bravery, where you can have the character face a deadly situation and feel no fear even if you'd be terrified, if you have a character who needs to think their way out of a situation, then you absolutely need to be able to think your way out of that situation. This cannot be faked. Regardless of what's happening, whether they're escaping a room, solving a mystery, or just navigating the social bear traps of high school or whatever job or social structure they're involved in, your character's ability to look around and see what obstacles are in their way, what tools are at their disposal, and be able to formulate a plan that yields them the best results possible is what makes them smart. If they're good at doing this, they're smart. If they're bad at doing this, they're dumb. If they're very good at doing this, they're very smart, and you can deduce the rest, regardless of how big the vocabulary is or how many Rubik's Cubes they solve. All these things amount to is writing "I'm smart" on their shirt. Think about the script. For them to solve the Rubik's Cube, all the writer needs to do is write the sentence, "They solve the Rubik's Cube in seconds." Everyone's staring at them astounded. Anyone can write that sentence. It means nothing. Sure, it tells us the character is smart, but I can tell you my neighbor's smart. But if you saw them licking chicken grease off a window, you'd call me a liar. Just because someone says that person there over there is smart means nothing. You have to back it up with them actually being smart. Think about all those puzzle-solving, quote-repeating, random fact-knowing, perfect memory-having geniuses who just seem to keep making the dumbest decisions the entire story through. Movies and TV are littered with characters like this. Characters who every other character announces to us is smart, but then they fumble through life with little more than an average amount of common sense. Now, two examples of how this can be handled well and badly both come from essentially the same source, which is actually the same source again, because I'm going to show you a little bit of Death Note once more. Specifically, two examples of how the detective comes to the conclusion that the main character is the villain. First, the show itself, where the character is a genius. And second, from the film based on the show, where the character is a fucking moron, who we're told is a genius. In the show, the detective, who goes by codename L, realizes that the killer has insider access to the police files regarding the investigation. So without telling the local police, he brings in outside agents to investigate all of the many people who have such access, as well as those within their social circles. The killer realizes he's being followed and squeezes that one agent for info, allowing him to kill all of them. When they all die, L is able to figure out that the source of the information leak that led to the deaths was one of the agents themselves just before they were killed. Because of this, he zeroes in his investigation onto the people that specific agent was investigating. One person on that very short list is someone who fits the criteria for the other deductions made from other information earlier. This is the main character, who is in fact the killer. L plants cameras in the killer's home, but as mentioned earlier, the killer realizes that someone has been in his home, and because of that, soon learns of the cameras. He disguises his actions so people watching the cameras will think he's innocent. It works, and they begin to think they were wrong about him. However, L, aware of the supernatural elements involved in the case, combined with the fact that they literally have no other viable leads, decides to take a pure gamble by revealing himself to Killer in order to study his reaction. From there, he's only 1% sure he's right and decides to maintain a relationship with him to study him further, while Killer also maintains this relationship to allow himself more access and even a say in how the investigation into him goes. After this, the show follows the two. Killer trying to throw the investigation while looking like he's helping it, and L trying to figure out if Killer is actually helping or just trying to look like he is. In the movie based off the show, Killer's father, who is a cop in both variations, gives an anti-killer speech on the news. When he isn't instantly killed for it, L decides that the only possible way he wouldn't have been killed was if Killer was someone who was so closely related to the cop that they didn't have it in themselves to kill him. And the only family he has is his son. And therefore, Killer must be this cop's son. He's 100% positive, no more proof required, I figured it out because I'm smart. And then he reveals himself to the son because I'm so confident, fuck you, I know it's you. This feels like a very clear-cut case of having a writer who knows who the killer is and then wanting the detective to be smart and figure it out quickly. But instead of having them follow a chain of logic-based clues and formulating a reasonable conclusion, they just make a massive leap of judgment based on a loose hunch, and then they're right because fuck you, that's how smart they are. But this fuck you, they're smart excuse gets old fast. When I come across a well-written, smart character, it's like a breath of fresh air. They stand out and present something truly creative and wonderful, and I love it. They are just straight up not enough smart characters out there. So please, next time you're writing something with an intelligent character in it, take the time to really connect A to B. Don't just tell us they're smart. Have them be smart. Have them think of things, follow evidence, formulate hypotheses, form conclusions. If they know something, have them figure it out instead of just knowing. Have them concoct plans and react to stimuli. Have them make choices, real, well thought out choices.